Awesome, y'all. Thank you for having me. I'm Mike Macpherson. Be presenting to you today, right? Just the importance of daily physical activity, and then how we can kind of, very popular term now, cliche, biohack, or get the most out of daily physical activity, or just physical activity in general when it comes to blood flow restriction. So first off, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity truly just to be here in front of you and talk about this stuff. I'm hugely passionate, one, about helping people and just helping people live a healthier lifestyle. My goal is hopefully you pass this stuff on to your children, and so that they can, right? There's a health epidemic right now around the world, especially in the United States. And so if we can do the little small things, get moving a little bit more, eat something a little bit different, less processed, we can start to change some of those outcomes. Thank you for doing what you do. It is amazing, right? Truthfully, very impressed by y'all and thankful. So I'm a doctor of health science. Make a long story short, I specialize blood flow restriction, performance, and longevity. Spent time in the high school teaching, college, taught all the sciences there is, biology, chemistry, biochemistry, physics, anatomy and physiology. And now I've spent some time in the recovery sciences, working with physical therapists, athletic trainers, pro sports, just trying to help improve outcomes when it comes to recovery, strength training, everything in between. Some important things that we're going to get into as we do talk about scientific literature. Big things when it comes to scientific methods, you see a lot of stuff out there, and this is more so when we start talking about nutrition and getting into those things in later presentations. But is it repeated repeatedly? So a lot of the stuff we're seeing in the scientific literature is company A invents a product, company does research on product is beneficial, and that's it. And it's just a one-time thing, and they're like, oh, it works. Right? What we're looking for is company A invents a product, and then B, C, D, E, F, everyone tests it. And are those results similar? Has it been repeated? That's what the scientific method really is, right? Check, recheck. We want to know what is the mechanism. So we're going to talk about some of these mechanisms, what drives adaptation when it comes to physical exercise. How's the body work, right? How's it adapting? And then we talk about who performs the research, but it gets a little more into it when we get into our health and more so our nutrition aspects. So we're going to cover our health and wellness topics throughout this year. Today's physical health, physical activity, right? Mental health and physical health. As we get into this, you're going to see a lot of them. It's the same coin, two sides of the same coin. As our physical health improves, it has an impact on our mental health and vice versa. We'll talk about mental health and mindset in the next one. Future will be nutrition and hydration. And then finally, sleep, recovery, and stress. And if there's anything else you'd like to address, talk about, touch on, let me know. Shoot me a text. I'll put my phone number up here. Shoot me a text. Give me a call, right? Don't ever hesitate. I'm here as a resource for you, whatever I can do to be helpful on this journey. There's my number. It'll be again at the end of the slideshow, whatever I can do to be helpful, and I truly mean that. Email's good. Text is even better, because then it's right there in front of my face and I can respond to you. Again, anything. So my frame of reference, where am I coming from when it comes to you guys? What are your movement needs as firefighters, right? You got to go from rest to rapid movement in a hurry. There's not a lot of occupations out there now today that require so much from a person. You're going to be, right, dead sleep. You got to get up and go. So that's very important, right? You don't got time to sit there and do a dynamic warm-up or to stretch and touch your toes for 5-10 minutes. You're moving in a hurry. Sometimes you're under stress and strain, which adds in a whole nother aspect, very taxing to the body. You're moving with an additional load, right? All of your gear on, you're carrying things, you're dragging things. Then you're moving, not only are you going to be under a load, right? You're moving with a load, but then you're going to have an external load. You're doing a lift, you're carrying a person. Right now you're carrying a person, you're twisting, you're adding rotation in it. Your body, really in this occupation, and hopefully you start a trend here, people need to be more aware. They need to be more aware of the demands that this job requires of y'all, and how do we properly set up our tactical athletes? Because that's what you are. We need to reframe it, right? We're not just firefighters, we're tactical athletes. You're forced to do a lot of athletic movements, change in direction, drag, pull, twist, right? We need to start addressing those things with the way that we go about our business and taking care of ourselves. So, staying active, right? Where injury happens most often, I'm lifting, I'm dragging, and then I haven't done this under load in years maybe. When's the last time I did a twist, right, or a med ball throw in the weight room? You get here, that's when something tweaks out, right? And that's what we are preparing against. We want to put our bodies in positions where injuries come and happen, but we want to do it safely in preparation for those things. Physical preparedness programs, that's really what we're getting at here, right? All it means preparing you not only for your job, but for your life, and hopefully arming you with things that you can take home, teach your kids, your nieces, your nephews, whoever it is. Whatever I can do to be helpful, I'll create a program specifically to fit your goals. Do you want, part-time, you're a power lifter. You want to get stronger, bigger, stronger, become more powerful. We can give you a program for that. If you're looking for weight loss, you want to tone up, we can create a program for that. Flexibility, mobility, we can create a program for all these things. Whatever your goals are, we can help you out. So again, program development. Big thing, we want to know what you want. What's your goal? At the end of the day, how can we help you improve? You don't just get in your car and drive somewhere. Typically, what do I mean by that? You got to go to the grocery store. I'm going to Kroger. You've just selected your destination. You've set your goal. It's got to be the same thing in fitness. What do you want to do? Same thing with exercise. What's your goal? I want to improve my health. I want to improve my physical health, my mental health. I want to get rid of those feelings of anxiety, the constant worries. I want to feel better, get rid of the brain fog, the fatigue, being lethargic, the pain. We got to set those goals in order to give us a direction, and then we know where to go from there. I can create that right off of scratch if we've worked together previously. If we're new or you want a movement analysis, all you have to do, I'll send you a simple list of exercises. You run through them, have someone videotape you on your phone, and then you just send me that, and we'll address kind of where our highest needs are. And for the vast majority of us, especially with y'all being in boots all day, every day, a lot of times, and the vast majority of just people in general, we got weak feet, right? Our feet are our foundation. Think of your feet as the foundation of your house, right? The foundation of your house starts to crack. It doesn't matter what you do in the first and second floor, right? Those walls start to crack, things start to cave in. You can continue to repair the first and second floor, but those cracks are still going to show, right? It's just patchwork. Nothing changes until you address the foundation. That's really the basis of our program, is we work from the ground up. We increase the strength of the foot, and it's amazing how that takes all the pressure off the knee. The hips get better, and when the hips get better, the low back reduces pain, all that tightness, that stiffness relaxes. Monthly check-ins as we go along. So what makes this successful is feedback. Mike, that program sucked. Excellent. What can I do better, right? You got to let me know. That way I can improve and help you reach your goals. This is what I like to see. This is what I like to do different. Feedback's important. Don't be afraid of hurting my feelings. I'll be okay, right? The more honest you are with me at where I can improve and get this off to you, the more likely I can help you achieve your goals, so to speak. Awesome. So, inactivity, this is what you get, right? So it's kind of life of inactivity. You're not doing much. You don't do daily movement. You spend a lot of time sedentary. Daily discomfort and persistent pain. Usually starts in the knee or low back. Low back's tight. Pain in the knees, ankles, the hips, you name it, right? Foot pain. What happens? Daily discomfort turns into persistent pain. That continues. Minor to major surgery. It's a slippery slope, and any surgeon would tell you, once you start surgery, the road to surgery kind of just continues, right? You can continue having them if you're not changing the way you move. Inactivity, cardiovascular, and metabolic diseases. Y'all are awesome, appreciate you. Obesity, and then right, the health impacts that we are suffering as a country, right? Cancer and obesity, cancer, cardiovascular disease. Do your thing, y'all. Yeah, appreciate y'all. Right, not moving. The two major killers of the United States, cancer, cardiovascular disease, directly linked to obesity and metabolic issues, right? And that's just from, a lot of it can be a lack of movement. Musculoskeletal disorders, just again, relating to that pain, meniscus surgeries, ACL reconstructions, stuff going on in the hip that they got to go in there for. Mental health disorders, right? A lot of mental health issues can be linked to a lack of movement, or they correlate with those things. Then obviously cancer risks, You start messing with the immune system with the lack of movement, and we'll get into that. It actually makes you more susceptible to illness, to a lot of these diseases. And then your quality of life declines. At the end of the day, as older adults, and in my mind, one of the biggest things I want you to start moving is so you're not a burden to your children, okay? We are now at a time in society where it seems like the last 5 to 10 years of someone's life, they're going through life as almost a vegetable, right? I mean, let's call it what it is. You're in a nursing home, you're existing. I just had an uncle who passed away, Alzheimer's, an incredibly awful disease to watch that spiral down the 7 years it took to see that kind of happen. You lose your memories. You forget who your kids are. Who's that? Who's this, right? That's an awful way to finish this wonderful life. And I think that's something we need to prevent. We need to maintain our quality of life so that as we get older, right, we can be a part of our grandchildren's lives. We can still be there for our kids, and we can do those things. Pain is very, very common, but it's not normal. It is not normal to go through life in pain every day. Is it common? Absolutely, right? But now we're in a day and age where metabolic diseases are common. Obesity is common. Sedentary lifestyles are common, but they're not normal, right? 84% of the U.S. population, this is about 3 years old, the stat, so it could be even higher, suffering from low back pain, right? And usually if there's low back pain, you got something going on with the hips, knees, and ankles, right? Because the low back sits on this. We're going to talk about the rotator cuff and how muscles balance each other and provide the scaffolding, and why it's important just to keep muscles just moving, right? Because they maintain the integrity of that joint. A lot of rotator cuffs, a lot of tears are undiagnosed. They just happen, right? Stuff's too tight. We end up with this poor posture. You end up with a rotator cuff tear. So a lot of our programs are going to kind of open up those shoulders to kind of fight that imbalance when we're just sitting hunched over. 50% knee hip pain. And then obviously what kind of starts this trend, right? We talked about the foot. We've all had sprained ankles as kids, right? Run around the backyard. Not a big issue, but if you've never gone through and then you sprain it again, right, as an adult, and you roll your ankle. As a kid, it don't bother you because you just get up and you get going again, and now your ankles are getting stronger all over again. But you're an older adult, you step off a curb, sprain your ankle, break your foot. How much hard exercise are you doing to get that ankle strength back to where it was beforehand, right? You're not running around the backyard. You ain't playing football, hockey, basketball with your friends. You're not getting those same stimulus to increase that ankle strength, and that's very important. Strength is never a weakness. That's something that hopefully that resonates with y'all. It is never going to be beneficial to be weak at a certain joint or certain muscles. Play this video for you.
Wondered why an ankle problem can manifest as a lower back pain, or how a knee problem can mess up your hips? There's a concept called tensegrity, first described by Buckminster Fuller back in the 1940s. He was an architect, to talk about structures where there is compression and tension at the same time, like this toy. Compression meaning downward force, and tension, like this elastic band or a bow and arrow. If you're struggling with joint pain in the body, this can be a helpful way to think about the problem, because often the source of the problem might be downstream or upstream, meaning your lower back pain might be caused by an ankle issue, or your neck pain could be caused by a dysfunctional hip. So if you're struggling with joint pain, knees or your lower back, for example, can be very helpful not just to focus on the area of concern, but also downstream and upstream to see if you can identify another imbalance.
It's just a concept, really. Everything pulls on something, and everything's related. So that tensegrity is a structural principle, compression and tension, right? I don't really like this picture, so I put this up for you, right? Basically, make it simple. We're suspended from above and below an imbalance. This is your knee joint. The muscles above, right, your quad tendons, your IT bands are going to come below the knee and connect. And they're pulling that upward motion, right? And you got gravity pushing down. And it is all these muscles and all these connections at your knee that are going to maintain that joint space. Because what you have, your femur is this bone, right? Sitting here. Your tibula fibula is this bone. In between that is your meniscus, which is basically a pad, a cushion between those two bones. You are constantly fighting gravity. If you are not, right, as our foe from day one until expiration date, you are fighting gravity. If the muscles of your joints don't have the strength or endurance to maintain their integrity against gravity, eventually that joint space decreases, it gets tighter, it gets tighter, it gets tighter. that meniscus starts getting pinched, and then you go to bend the knee, you get that tweak, it feels like it's catching, and then before you know it, you're in the operating room, they're snipping out part of your meniscus, right? So now that part of the meniscus that gets caught is no longer there, the joint space gets more and more constricted. That meniscus eventually disappears, and now you're bone on bone, arthritic, right? And all that can be prevented by maintaining integrity in that joint space, just by moving, okay? Right here, common, guys, most guys, you probably feel it on the side of your body, tight ropey spot, that's your IT band, right? Your IT band, this is what's crazy, your IT band, this is the importance of exercise, why you can't just get away. Back in the day, your ancestors were either hunting, fishing, or gathering food, or they were farming, and they were doing a lot of rotational movement. They were constantly moving 24/7, right? All day, every day. They didn't just sit around, okay? So they maintain these integrities just with their natural movement, with their walking, all that stuff. This IT band that runs along the side here, it connects to a small muscle in your glute, and that IT band connects to your big toe, believe it or not. So something as simple, right, as walking. If you don't walk and push through your toes, and you kind of walk like I did, right, hurt your ankle and your foot turns out, and you kind of swing, you've now lost that push off through the toe, so that muscle in the glute goes to sleep, which causes the IT band to get really tight. It's crazy, right? It's just a chain reaction that happens up the body. When I was a teacher, I'd watch kids, shout out to Edsel Ford, right? When I was a teacher, when I started getting all this exercise stuff as a strength coach, I started watching how kids walk. And your top athletes, your fastest kids, they all, right? It's no coincidence. They're all pushing through the toes. Big butts, pushing through the toes because they're powerful. Your slower, bigger athletes, right? They're walking, their toes out, their arches collapse, they're just crushing. Their foot and the muscles of the lower limb don't have the strength to maintain integrity, and so it just basically crushes those joints. Something as simple, right? Very low-hanging fruit. Heel raises, very low-hanging fruit, and we'll get to why they're calling the calves, right? Like your second heart, and we'll get to that a little bit later in the presentation. However, just doing stuff for the foot and ankle, huge benefit, not only to strength and to pain, but to health overall. This is the backside of the leg, right? So the muscles of the calves, they're crossing that knee joint. There's that concept, that tensegrity, right? The muscles of the hamstring, they're coming down. And this was shocking to me the first time I was in surgery. I was watching, the first time I was in a hamstring autograft for an ACL reconstruction. And forgive me, right? They were on the side here, and they cut down here, and then they took a rod. I was like, what are they doing on there? They're like, that's a hamstring attachment, crosses the knee joint. And they took it all the way up here and cut that piece of the hamstring off, folded it over 4 times, that became that person's ACL, right? But that crosses that knee joint, right? And so it's maintaining that joint space. So if your hamstrings get super tight, right? Low back pain, sitting all the time, I got super tight hamstrings. That joint space, that's pulling your tib, crushing that meniscus right up to the femur, right? Very important. And that's just right? There's the hamstring tendon. There it is, crosses that knee joint. This gets super tight, that raises, there goes all that space in that joint. And then you hear people, I'm bone on bone. That's why. Here's just an x-ray showing you, right? Again, strength is never a weakness. It is very important to be, not just like strong, I don't care how much you bench, squat, or deadlift. That's not what we're talking about in terms of strength. We're talking about in terms of strength of fighting gravity, right? Maintaining healthy aging, longevity, being able to get up and down on the ground with your kids, chase your grandkids around, that type of thing, right? Normal joint space, plenty of room to move. Muscles get weak, that meniscus just gets destroyed. Right? No joint space there. And I was in one surgery, the gentleman was 300 plus pounds, and not like 300 plus pounds of muscle, definitely morbidly obese. And they cut into his knee, right? So they put the holes for the arthroscopic, they put the camera in, they made one tiny little slit, the knee was super swollen, and it was pouring out yellow fluid. Just pouring, like the bag was full with about 2 to 3 liters of yellow fluid, and that was all just his meniscus being crushed, and the body was just sending fluid in there to trying to cause some sort of healing, right? The body's fighting to heal, but it can't do its job because there's no strength, right? There's no integrity maintaining that joint space. It's fighting to heal something that's just continuing, right? Just continuing to destroy. So this is a reality for a lot of people, and it could be simply prevented with just some general strength training. Like we said, you versus gravity, it's your foe, your enemy for the rest of your life. It's unrelenting. It doesn't sleep, it doesn't eat, it never goes away. So you got to be on your A game. Your muscles maintain your joint space. Very important, okay? You must be strong enough to combat gravity, right? What do we see? We see people hunched over. You ever see an older adult and they're walking like this? Not strong enough, right? Their postural muscles were not strong enough to keep them upright and fight gravity, right? We get them doing some band work, getting their chest open earlier, and we can catch it. We can kind of fight that, but gravity's just going to continue. If you don't fight it, it's going to beat you into the ground. Rotator cuff. Rotator cuff is a group of 4 muscles. This is our humerus. I know all y'all know this, right? This is our humerus. When the rotator cuff is not intact, all right, these 4 muscles, the rotator cuff pins the humerus down so it stays right over my glenoid, right over this labrum in here. And so it kind of ball and socket, right? So it maintains this ball and socket. What happens when the rotator cuff gets damaged or lacks strength? Over time, that humerus rides up. And that's what gets that pinching in the shoulder as you move it up. Because that joint space is no longer there, that humerus is now grinding into the shoulder, and now you're getting this. And that's bone on bone, right? You go into a sports med surgery, all they're gonna do, they take a little spinning burr, they stick it in your shoulder, and they just burr this bone right off. And then try and pin the rotator cuff back down, right? They just eat that bone away, and there's just so much inflammation. Again, by strengthening these muscles, we can get them to push that shoulder blade down. I'm sorry, not shoulder blade. We get them to push that humerus down so that the arms just function appropriately and just maintain that joint space. The rotator cuff is a force couple. And basically all that means to you, and we're going to talk about this, we talk a lot about balance. They're just a group of muscles that all balance each other out, right? Everything you do, it's going to be about balance when you strength train and the importance of physical activity. If one side, right, so we get this common position here. This is an imbalance. What's actually happening, the muscle of the rotator cuff that's called your subscap is really tight and it rolls the shoulders forward, where the smaller muscle of the rotator cuff, right, that should open us up, your teres minor, your infraspinatus, these other muscles that should open us up, they're stuck in this long stretch position, and the subscap is stuck in this tight short position. And we got to open that up. When these force couples, when they're disrupted, injury, right? Maybe you played high school football, jostled your shoulder. Injury weakens injury weakens muscles. And that weakness is what changes the joint structure. So maintaining that integrity with just simple movement, very helpful. Balanced rotator cuff, you see, I mean, you are one of the most amazing things on this planet, the way your body functions. When you start getting into it, I'm a huge nerd, so I read all this stuff and dive deeper and just amazed how we are put together and how well balanced we are when we do things right. Just by simply moving and maintaining good posture, balance, maintaining strength overall. Getting hammered today. See you guys. Appreciate you guys. Thank you. This just shows you, here's the rotator cuff, right? So over time, when those muscles are no longer able to pin that shoulder down or this humerus, it rides right up into the bones, right up into the joint there, your AC joint, and then that's what we're going in there with surgery, trying to pull that down and reset it. If you would, let's stand up. Oh, this is an interactive presentation. Surprise, right? So, first thing, spoiler alert, let's check our feet, right? So right out the get-go, and my biggest habit was I'd always stand, my right foot's kicked out and turned out, right? Broke my foot, sprained ankles, blah, blah, blah. So what I always try and do, you're doing the dishes, everything you do. Let's get our toes forward. Let's get our knees underneath our hips, okay? And our ankles underneath our knees. Standing like this, engage the toes a little bit more. Now squeeze the butt muscles, right? We're getting the glutes. The glutes protect the low back, right? Everyone, glute amnesia, when you sit all the time, it weakens your hamstrings and your glutes. It puts them to sleep, right? And now from this position, let's just open up, get a great stretch. And we like to go thumbs out. And the reason we're doing this, right? Keep that core tight. The reason we're going and opening up thumbs up with this external rotation is it's opening that subscap, that tight rotator cuff muscle, gives a great stretch. We want to pinch our shoulder blades together as if we're trying to pinch someone's fingers. Nice, y'all. Go ahead and relax. Doing that a couple times a day, huge benefit versus doing nothing, right? Just these simple little things. Just give yourself a stretch, right? You watch your kids get up out of bed. First thing they do is they usually give a great stretch. Welcome, welcome. Good, y'all can sit down, but I will probably be getting you up shortly here, right? Everything's connected. Everything in your body's connected. And that was a big, even as an anatomy and physiology teacher, a big shock to me. Right? There is no, this is where the bicep starts, this is where the bicep ends. The bicep turns into the bicep tendon, right? The bicep turns into the labrum. Everything is connected and pulling on something. So maintaining balance, strength, and movement across the board is very helpful. When things get out of balance, right? So some of us, we talked about earlier, our back in this position. The muscles of our back are stuck in this long stretch position, where the muscles in this front are stuck in this short, tight position. We want to get to a balanced position with our postural muscles, okay? And what happens is some joints will become they'll be very lax, and some joints will be very tight, okay? What happens, all right? Our ankle, so here's a quick explanation. Your ankle and your hips are the ankles, hips, and shoulders, the most mobile joints on the body. They should be. What happens over time, right? Weak feet and injury stiffen up your ankles. So then what happens, your knee, once your ankle gets stiff and weak, your knee now goes from just being a hinge, it's got to do more, way more rotation. It's getting different pulling forces on it because now it's look at what's happening in the NFL right now. The epidemic, I think there's a role here that plays a role. A lot of these guys, constant foot and ankle injuries. We're seeing more Achilles and more ACLs in professional sports, although they have the biggest sports medicine staffs they've ever had in X amount of years, ever, in the history of professional sports. This tightens up your mobile structure, your mobile joint, most mobile joint tightens up. It's going to require the knee to do more. So now the knee's caving, doing more of a rotational or doing things that's not designed to do, where it should be a hinge. In response, right, if your ankle's tight, typically your hip's going to tighten up. There's a correlation, a lot of studies between those two. Once the hip starts to tighten up, the structure here, your low back, right, which should be a very rigid and stable structure, it is asked to do more, right? It's asked to do more flexion, lateral bending, and all these different roles, right? That butt wink when we squat, right, it causes the lumbar spine to fold down. All of those things are requiring more of the back, which leads to back pain, injury. So if we're not where we need to be with certain joints, the body's going to figure out a way to move and move efficiently. Or not efficiently, it's just going to figure out a way to move, and it will be inefficient at times. Because at one point in our existence, if you didn't move, you died. Can we agree on that? Right? Like, you didn't move, you were cooked. Your family, you couldn't provide food. So our brain will figure out a way to move regardless if it's bad for you in the long term, because it produces short-term survival. Does that make sense? Gives you short-term survival at the cost of long-term health. When you get one of these joints that are incredibly weak, right? Maybe something as simple. I got a collapsed arch in my right foot, had a bunch of high ankle sprains, broke a foot. This foot got really weak, so in order to move, I started collapsing my arch inward, but now, watch my knee, right? So my foot collapses inward. That now changes the force all the way up the structure. The entire structure changes all the way to the shoulder, all the way to the neck. Everything is connected. So something as simple as one foot weaker than the other, right? Not able to maintain integrity in the arch of your foot can ultimately result in this misalignment, right? And you see, if you've ever gotten someone diagnosed, you got low back pain, like you got a leg length discrepancy. Your leg just didn't get shorter, right? You just all of a sudden have a shorter leg. You got a hip height going on. You have some of these movement disparities that we can address with some exercise. Very common in the low back, right? Muscles get tight here and they get stuck. Your low back is constantly engaged. It's being overworked. Abs are pulling it down, right? If you're not doing any ab work and bringing that hip flexion up, those muscles get stuck long, low back gets stuck short, and you're stuck in this position. It's very tight and uncomfortable. Again, movement. Start to we bring blood to the area, it loosens things up. Bless you. We can get back to a little bit of normalcy, integrity in that structure. These are just some common things that we discuss those now. We call it upper and lower cross syndrome. So when you're tight, right, low back is constantly in this tight position. It causes your psoas, which are deep hip flexors. And then there were 5.
Thanks.
Yeah, good luck to y'all. So again, when that tight, upper body wise, when the subscap or the front of the body gets tight and we get this rounded position, this overstretch in the back, they just call that upper cross. And basically one side's too tight, the other one's stuck in this long stretch position. And if we stretch the chest, squeeze the back, we can start to relieve some of those issues. This ultimately results in what's called malalignment, right? Which is just poor alignment of the joints, which again leads to kind of dysfunction throughout the system and should eventually bring you to surgery over the long term. And this is very important, right? Like a lot of us go to chiropractors and get immediate relief. And the chiropractor provides immediate relief because he's putting that joint, right? Maybe it's in the low back. He's putting that joint back where it goes, that vertebrae, he's realigning it. But what pulled that vertebrae out of alignment in the first place? What's causing those issues, those joints to get malaligned? And I think that's where the answer is, right? When we go to a chiropractor to put the joints back in alignment, we're treating a symptom. But that symptom is trying to tell us something. And all of your bones are attached to muscle, and they are being pulled on constantly by the muscle. So I think it's very important that we address the cause, not the symptom. Okay. So this is just what we see, right? Collapsed arch. This just shows you what it looks like. You're running, and this is how everyone's tearing their ACL, right? If you've seen it in the past couple of past weekends, who was it? Mahomes and Parsons, right? Inward collapse, arch collapse, knee collapses. That's a torn ACL, right? You practice those movements. Some of the way we move with that toe out position, again, that toe out causes the collapsed arch, causes the inward collapse of the knee. That puts you at risk of injury. If you're constantly walking, right? As every time you walk, your foot turns out and you're kind of collapsing that, you're going to result in a lot of pain, discomfort, and eventually if someone hits you there or you go up and you repeat that alignment, that's how you end up with the torn ACL. All right, can we stand back up, please? Keep it interesting. We're getting a lot of calls, so it's been good. Right, so again, let's check our alignment. Check the feet. Are our feet straight ahead? Are our feet underneath of our hips? Squeeze in the glutes, right? Pick the chest up a little bit. We want to stay out of this. Let's just get a nice stretch. Just open it up. Nice. Now grab the ground with those toes if you would, right? Because that's where it all starts, that foundation. That foundation, keep those toes engaged. A lot of us, right? How often do we even think about our toes when we walk or do anything? Probably never. And it makes sense. Good, relax, thank you. But at this point, right, with the amount of issues, weakness in our feet causes, we got to pay a little more attention to those guys, or at least in some way, shape, or form. They are our foundation, right? This misalignment, it starts, could be over time, chronically, usually it's an injury. Some sort of injury. Could be in adolescence, childhood, you're playing high school sports. You get hurt and, like most of us, you want to get back in, or you get hurt on the job and you don't want to let your guys down, so you rush yourself back. You haven't gone through all the PT yet. You haven't gotten your strength back to where it needs to be, so you get back to doing what you're doing. Your body's going to change those daily habits. It's going to change the way you stand, the way you walk, so that you can move. But if it continues to happen, you never correct it, that's how you end up with long-term issues. So a huge takeaway, if you could do anything for me from here on out, one of the things I'd like to see you do, stand with your feet straight ahead, right? Knees under hips, ankles under knees, toes forward, and then do your best. Try and be conscious when you walk. Walk with your feet forward. Super simple. That's it. Awesome. You may sit down. I appreciate you. Thank you for playing along. So our goal is a daily physical activity, and it doesn't need to be a 2-hour workout. What we're looking for, right? It could be throughout the day you do 10 heel raises. Something as simple as that. Micro workouts. Little things along throughout the day, or maybe 1 half-hour workout, 1 15-minute workout. Whatever it is, we want to increase our physical activity level, no matter what, right? We're going to eliminate, you might initially have some pain as we work through some things, because there's going to be some tight structures, and we're going to have to loosen those up. But we're going to eliminate pain and discomfort. And we're going to do that because we're going to bring some integrity back to that joint. And over the long term, if you stay at it, right, there's 2 costs. There's always a cost to everything. You can either pay for the cost of exercise now by exercising, or you can put off those costs and you can pay for them when you're older in surgery and medications. So you can pay now with time, or you can pay later with time, but with the addition of surgery and medications, because that's really what it is. No matter what, right, you're going to have to pay somebody. You're going to have to put forth some effort, whether it's in your rehabilitation or it's in just your daily life. You kind of pick and choose what you like, what battle you want to fight. We're going to improve energy with physical activity, right? I'm not asking you to get in there and max out, but if you get moving, what ultimately happens, we're going to see this, your body produces more mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, we all remember from high school biology, and it's going to give you more energy throughout the day. Improved immunity, which we're going to get into shortly here. And then we want to be successful aging or longevity. Our ultimate goal is longevity. Quality of health as we get older, okay? We are not a burden to our children. We can be there for our kids and our grandkids. So before exercise, right, if this is our baseline, we start here, and again, we're not maxing out, we're not powerlifting, but some moderate physical activity, you should have 30 minutes after exercise. Our energy levels should be higher, right? Your body's going to produce the natural mechanism, guys. Your body's going to start producing more energy, more ATP, because it needs to meet the requirement, right? Mitochondria, why are these important? Why do you want more of these? So exercise, keep it real simple. Exercise makes more mitochondria. Yes, mitochondria make more energy, but mitochondria detoxify your body, right? And here's where I'm at with nutrition. We now have a food supply that has more chemicals ever in the human. There's never been this many chemicals in our food supply. Full stop. There are things that are more processed and ultra processed that we are eating now than we've never eaten in human history. And there's a correlation. As processed food consumption has increased, bless you, there's been an increase in cancer, cardiovascular disease, and every metabolic disease, right? I'm not, however you want to eat. But at least at the very end of the day, right, your body's never seen these chemicals before, so it's going to treat them as a toxin. It might be just a short, acute toxin that causes inflammation, but more mitochondria are going to help you get rid of those toxins. So the more you exercise and sweat, the more you're going to get rid of those toxins and benefit your body. Cardiovascular efficiency, right? Your circulation is going to get better. Your VO2 max, you're not going to get as winded. You know all the benefits of exercise. Just getting moving. Move often, good things will happen. Exercise is going to help you stabilize blood sugar, right? You sit down, you eat, you see it. Watch your kids. As soon as they eat, at least mine, they are full tilt. They have to go and do something, like their just energy is maxed because they got all of this glucose in their blood, all of that sugar in their blood. Their body will push them to go do something with it, right? And that's why they run around, because that way the muscles grab the glucose out of the blood and put it to work. It gives them a reason to do something. We will often sit down, we'll eat, and then we'll just continue to sit, right? Exercise pulls that glucose out of the blood. It gives it somewhere to go. So it's going to normalize that blood glucose level, and it's going to prevent you from, right, and now people are insulin resistant, type 2 diabetes. Now we're fighting those chronic diseases. Exercise boosts mood, right? So neurotransmitters, this is anxiety, worries, depression, all of these negative thoughts that seem to occur, these automatic negative thoughts people talk about. Exercise boosts dopamine, right? Not only that, I would say what's even more important, dopamine's like I'm happy now. We're looking at serotonin. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that keeps you joyful, right? Like the main reason to be happy, finding a reason to feel good about yourself or to feel good about life. And when you're dealing with stuff as you guys do, it's very important to be able to regulate that mood, to find those things to focus on that bring you joy. Exercise can help you produce more of these neurotransmitters. Can we stand up one more time? This way, right? This keeps people from passing out and desks, heads from hitting desks and whatnot. Awesome. Just check your feet. Are our feet forward? Yeah, check them. Nice. Now, for this one, let's get up on those toes. Let's do 10 heel raises. Even if you're in boots, do your best. Drive up. The higher you get the heel off the ground, the better. And you're going to see it in a slide just a little bit further down the road here. The calf, they're calling it your second heart. right? Your calf is responsible for flushing all the blood and all the lymph out of the bottom of your legs, right? Varicose veins, some of the venous return issues people are seeing, lymphedema. We could essentially start to combat those things just by exercising the lower leg. Excellent, relax. And it's twofold, thank you guys. Right? Not only do we enhance circulation and immune function, but at that point again, we're building our foundation. So, exercise enhances immune function. So this is where we're going to get into lymphatic travel. Exercise reduces chronic inflammation. Make a long story short, your fat cells produce inflammatory chemicals. Fat is inflammatory. Your muscle cells produce anti-inflammatory chemicals or molecules, whatever you want to call them. The more muscle you have, the more likely you're being in an anti-inflammatory state. The more fat you have, right, chronic inflammation, the more likely you're going to be inflamed. What do we call those molecules? They're called myokines, right? They're beneficial. Just some of the things we see with exercise myokines, they're going to help, right, help you regulate insulin. They're going to help your immune function, your cardiovascular system. You name it, it's going to be beneficial. The more muscle you have, strength is never weakness. The more muscle we have, the better off we are. Physical, right, the decline, immunoessence, the decline in immune function, right? There's Peter Attia just came out like 2 days ago and said the best anti-aging medicine there is physical activity, is exercise. It slows right, they say it could be, is it age or is it increasing the amount of toxins in the body that slows immune function? I think you can make an argument for both, right? What happens as we age, we're exposed to more things. Those toxins, right? If you're vitamin deficient and you're high in toxins, your immune function goes down. But you exercise, you're able to get rid of some of those toxins, you bring that immune function back up. Physical activity is going to make you more resilient to stress. It helps lower cortisol levels, right? And especially for you guys in your occupation, being able to deal with stress, physical activity will give you somewhere to put some of that energy. Could be an escape. You're able to shut your brain off for an hour, 15 minutes. That, to me, is a huge benefit of physical activity. And when you let your brain relax, you put the worries down, the anxieties, everything that goes on in life, you can sort through it a little bit easier. That's one of the roles physical activity can play. Exercise and immunity. So, our fat-soluble vitamins require exercise to get where they need to be. You can take in all the fat-soluble vitamins. So fat-soluble vitamins are incredibly important to the human body, right? Vitamin D, we used to just think it was in bone metabolism. We now know it interacts with 2,700. It interacts with basically 10% of your entire genome. Every cell in the human body except red blood cells, and there's one other type, have a vitamin D receptor. All the cells in your brain are receptive to vitamin D. Your skin, all of your organs, right? Not the red blood cells, we got rid of the receptor so we can carry more oxygen. But vitamin D is so damn important that your body literally figured out a way, or we were made a way, to synthesize it from the sun. Incredibly important. These fat-soluble vitamins rely on exercise and movement to get where they need to be. So you could be taking in all the vitamin A you possibly need to be as healthy as possible, but if you eat a bunch of vitamin A and then sit on your butt, it's not going anywhere it needs to be, right? And that is because it relies on traveling within the lymphatic system.
The lymphatic system is part of the immune system, defending the body against infection. It includes lymph nodes, lymph vessels, the spleen, thymus, and bone marrow.
The lymphatic system helps our bodies get rid of toxins, waste, and other unwanted materials, including infections and cancer cells. It is a system of thin tubes called lymph vessels and lymph nodes, or glands. These run throughout the body. The spleen, thymus, tonsils, and adenoids are also part of the lymphatic system. Along the lymph vessels are small bean-shaped lymph glands. You might be able to feel these in your neck, under your arm, and in your groin. But they are also throughout the body, including the chest, abdomen, and pelvis. The lymphatic system carries a colorless liquid called lymph. As the blood circulates around the body, fluid passes from the blood into the body tissues, carrying food to the cells. This fluid bathes the tissues to form tissue fluid, which collects waste products, bacteria, damaged cells, and cancer cells if there are any. The fluid then drains back into the lymph vessels, where it is transported towards the lymph glands. The glands then filter the lymph, taking out any harmful products. The lymph also contains lots of white blood cells called lymphocytes, which help us fight infections. The lymph eventually reaches a large vessel at the base of the neck, called the thoracic duct, which passes the filtered lymph back into the blood circulation. If the lymph vessels or nodes are blocked, removed, or damaged, it can cause a buildup of fluid. This can cause swelling, known as lymphedema. For more information about lymphedema and cancer.
So the lymph, why is that important, right? So it takes up all the metabolic byproducts as your cells break things down. Appreciate y'all. Tough. That lymph collects basically all the waste products. But there is no pump, right? What keeps our blood moving is our heart. Our heart pumps, and that's what keeps our blood moving. Your lymph does not rely on a pump. It relies on muscular contraction in order to move throughout the system, okay? It is a group of one-way valves.
Lymph vessels. The lymph vessels are a network of thin-walled vessels that run parallel to the circulatory system. They transport a clear, watery fluid called lymph, which contains immune cells and waste products from the body's tissues. The lymph vessels have one-way valves that help to prevent the backflow of lymph and rely on muscle contractions and breathing to move the lymph through the vessels. The lymph vessels also pick up excess fluids, proteins, and other materials that leak out of the blood vessels and return them back to the bloodstream.
So your lymph system, right? Keep it simple. Your blood vessels rely on the heart to pump and move things around. Your lymphatic system, in order to get, right, we've seen varicose veins and things start to get puffy in the lower limb. In order to get that moved up and to get all that fluid flushed, you need a muscular contraction. You have to have it. The lymphatic system, which is basically your body's sewer system, relies on muscular contraction in order to move that fluid. What's the result when you don't move? What if there's a cancerous cell? It gets stuck in one of the lymph nodes or one of these areas where the lymphatic system is and there's no movement there. It'll sit there and fester. If you're never moving it, you're giving it an area to just kind of conquer and take over, and that's where it initiates its growth, right? If we're moving and we squeeze those muscular contractions, the lymph is pushed, right? It's pushed up these one-way valves. So every muscular contraction pushes lymph, you could say, into the next chamber. You stop contracting, slams back, that door shuts. Contract again, it moves it up, right? Just got to move. Spend some time moving. Okay? Lymphedema, venous insufficiencies. How many of these are caused by inactivity? Okay? The calf. So this is where, again, if I can get you to do one thing moving forward here, do some heel races. Whether your toes are in, forward, and out, right? Your legs are straight, or you get a little knee over toe action, because you have the explanation or the kind of common thought process is the two biggest muscles in your calf are your gastroc, which is the one you see, like everyone when they flex it, right? That's the muscle you see on the back of the calf, and that works when your legs are straight. You're going to work all the different areas of the gastroc. Your soleus runs along the side of the calf, and they both attach to the Achilles. Okay, your soleus is only getting worked, or it's most activated when your knees are over your toes. So if you're not doing a lot of knees over toes things, your soleus eventually is going to get very tight and cause some discomfort, whether that's Achilles tendonitis, patella tendonitis, whatever it is. But your calf, right? So not only just by doing heel raises do we improve the foundation of our structure, right? And everything above it, we're taking care of the basement, the foundation then, but now we're moving lymph, okay? Now we're moving some of those waste products. We're getting them out of the body.
This part of your body could change your life. The calf muscles are often referred to as the second heart. These muscles play a critical role in moving blood from your lower body back up to your heart. When the calf muscles contract, they increase the pressure in the veins, forcing blood upwards towards your heart. One of the most simplest and most effective ways to activate your calves is through heel raises. By lifting your heels off the ground, you engage these muscles, which helps boost circulation and...
Did you want to give it a try? We can do it while we're seated. Just a little heel raise action. Go ahead, just knock out 10. And we're getting physical activity, micro workout, super simple. That's it, right? Believe it or not, I'm not doing anything. You are. Just by doing this, right? Drive the toes into the ground, wake up the foot. You're going to improve the structure.
keeps blood flowing efficiently.
Flat-footed, that's closed. Squeeze it, right? We're going to open up that system. We're going to drive some of that blood, some of that fluid out. Got to do heel raises. And that's why if you notice a lot of your workouts, we shifted some of the stuff we started doing last year is putting the foot and ankle and everything first, like little hops, little heel raises. Just do, if you can do 10 a day or 10 throughout the day at different periods, you're going to change the way your body feels. Back to the exercise and vitamins, right? So we need that to get the lymph, to get the venous flow normalized, we got to do heel raises. And if you notice, right, like, and I experienced this first off, never did anything for the calves, right? They were like, they used to tell me when I was a kid, calves are genetic. You don't even need to work them, they're genetic. Well, then I started having some of these that looked like varicose veins action. I was getting very puffy on my calf. And I started doing more of the foot and ankles, exercising toes in, toes out, feet forward. I think BC, we had this conversation a while back when we were training in there, way back when. I started doing more of the heel raises, and I noticed within 3-4 months, some of those puffy veins in my calf were gone. And I was like kind of thinking to myself, like, oh, what's different? And I started addressing the foot and ankle. Absorption and vitamins. So your fat-soluble vitamins, right? They're transported from the small intestine in the lymphatic system. Once they're in the lymphatic system, then they travel through the lymph back to the bloodstream. So what happens? Fat-soluble vitamins, you eat them. Right? So fat-soluble means they're enclosed in fat. And this is what I wrote my dissertation on when I was working on my doctorate. So I was like really into these things at the mechanism. I want to understand what's going on with all of these things. So when you eat them with fat, the fat-soluble vitamin gets encased in that fat. So pretend there's like an A, D, E, or K here. Okay? It gets enclosed in that fat. It goes through the intestine, and you'll notice it doesn't. Where water-soluble, vitamin C, the B complexes, they go right into the blood. The fat-soluble vitamins bypass the blood and enter the lymphatic system. So if you're not moving, all of the fat-soluble vitamins you're taking, all those multivitamins, all those supplements, it's all just sitting in the lymph to an extent. You have to move. You have to move to transport them where they need to go. And then once they're able to get transported through the lymph, they dump it into the circulatory system, and now they're relying on the pump of your heart to move them, right? So it's not just eating a proper diet. It's diet and exercise. It's always diet and exercise. We're going to get real heavy into these when we go to the nutrition aspect of it. But vitamin A, right? Night vision, being able to see, eat your carrots for your vitamin A, very important. That's what that fat-soluble vitamin, right? A lot of with our skin cells is going to help our endothelial cells, reproduction, but a lot of vitamin A is vision. And something that was very shocking to me that we don't talk about enough, and this is what I also learned, I'll share with you. When I was writing my dissertation, I was a vegetarian, and I was reading all kinds of papers on vitamin A, and I read one paper on, it's called bioabsorption, and it said, if you were to consume 100 grams of vitamin A, if it was all plant-based, now don't get me wrong, you do get a lot of great things from plants, especially when you eat plants of different colors. Different colored fruits and vegetables have different nutrients, but you're only going to absorb 30% at most of the vitamin A you consume when it's from a plant source, because the body's got to convert it. When you get vitamin A from an animal source, you're converting 75 to 100% of that source to vitamin A. So not only is it moving, but it's how are you, as I read that study, we went and got raw milk later that day, right? No, a couple weeks ago, we started full on introduced. I was like, it was so impactful. I was like, okay, this wasn't the right thing for me to do. Vitamin D, and we could spend 3 hours on this alone easily. Incredibly important, so important to your body. As oxygen is, vitamin D, we make it from the sunlight. It is so your body, sunlight hits your skin, it stimulates the cholesterol in your skin, the cholesterol, to produce vitamin D, right? The precursor. And then vitamin D eventually gets to the liver, all these precursors, and it produces vitamin D. It turns genes on and off. Vitamin D deficient, right? If your body needs to be here with vitamin D, but you're only getting this much in, that means all of these roles at vitamin D, that space between, you're only doing half the jobs it's supposed to. Okay? What your body's going to prioritize, what functions give you immediate survival, right? At the cost of chronic disease. So it's very important, right? Not only getting these things, but then moving with them. Vitamin D interacts with your genome. Every cell, right, besides your red blood cells, and then the one other one, which forgive me, I don't remember it, they all have vitamin D receptors. Hugely important. We used to think vitamin D was just for bone loss or just for maintaining bone in your teeth. We now know it supports the immune system, muscular contractions, helps regulate the nervous system. Vitamin E, we think of vitamin E, avocados, olive oil. They're anti-inflammatory, antioxidants. Incredible for really kind of like the anti-cancer. So that's where vitamin E is important. Again, and fertility, Alzheimer's, anti-inflammatory. Alzheimer's and brain inflammation, we can prevent that. We can help lessen that with some vitamin E. Vitamin K. Less is known about vitamin K. It's not as readily talked about. What vitamin K does is it interacts. The most important role vitamin K plays is it kind of helps out another group of proteins called vitamin K-dependent proteins. And this is what I want you to pay attention to, right? Because cardiovascular disease is either the top or could be like 1 to 2 of the killers in the United States and the world. Vitamin K, the vitamin K-dependent protein, inhibits calcification in the artery. Okay? One of vitamin K's roles in the body is to stimulate this protein, and if this was an artery, and here's the plaque, the calcified plaque. Forgive my drawing, right? It's like the janitor. Vitamin K comes, and it's going to grab that plaque, and it's going to redistribute it where it needs to go, or it's going to destroy it and clean it, right? That right there, vitamin K, grass-fed butter. Grass-fed milk, right? There is a difference between when we feed cows grass-fed versus soy and corn-fed. It changes the vitamin K levels in their byproducts. But vitamin K, you're dealing with cardiovascular disease, or that's a risk or a concern. That's a need. Regulates calcium levels, like we said, in the body. Our goal is a daily physical activity, which we talked about, right? Decrease in pain, longevity, all of these things. We know all the benefits of physical activity and how it can help us. At the end of the day, being here as we get older, right? Not ending up in a nursing home and just existing the last 5 to 10 years of our lives. That should be the ultimate goal, right? What's your reason why? The stronger your reason why, the stronger you're going to feel that pull to get up and go do something where you can just sit on the couch and have a beer, right? You've got to think of your reasons why, because you got to get moving. Reward yourself. Physical activity helps lower cancer risk. Multiple studies. We're just showing some quick clips here that just 3 hours per week, 61% chance, lower risk of dying. Doesn't have to be crazy. We're not talking extremely vigorous. Just getting moving, right? Going for a walk. The mental health benefits of exercise. You're going with exercise. I think anxiety, I think a lot of anxiety comes from anxious energy. Not doing something with your body. It's preparing you for whatever it is, right? And one day you have to be moving. So your body's still pre-programmed to provide you with energy to get you moving. When you aren't moving, your body's got to do something with that energy. I think a lot of times it turns that energy into automatic. It's going to give your mind something to do. Automatic negative thoughts, anxieties, worries. And if you don't have a goal and you're not steering your mind and your imagination where it needs to go, you're going to get caught up in a lot of things without that exercise. Again, just more helps regulate depression, anxiety. They found that exercise was more effective than pharmaceuticals for depression. Improving, again, anxiety, negative thoughts. 128,000 people. Exercise outperforms pharmaceuticals for depression. That's a pretty big population. That's a pretty big sample size. Just getting moving. A lot can be done with just getting moving. Combats insulin resistance. Insulin, right? High insulin levels all the time, increases inflammation, increases growth. Exercise balances your sex hormones, right? Going to keep you regulated. Beneficial compounds like we talked about, those myokines from muscle. Reduces cancer risk. That's a big concern. Cancer, cardiovascular disease, diet and exercise. Exercise can actually help heal the brain, boost BDNF, which is called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's a neuroprotective protein that enhances learning, memory, and cognition. Truly incredible. Exercise stimulates the production. Could be another way. We're fighting depression, Alzheimer's, anxiety, worried thoughts. Doesn't matter where you start. It just matters that you start. It's never too late. We now have 7-year-olds. Social media is a great thing in regards to seeing what people are doing, 70, 80, 90-year-olds, and what they're doing to reverse their aging. They're getting up, they're getting moving, and they're changing their lives. They're improving their longevity and just their quality of life. So it's going to bring us, talked a ton about exercise and the importance of movement. Blood flow restriction is a biohack for all of this. And what this is, blood flow restriction, you put on, right, whether it's a cuff on the top of the arm or the top of the leg, and you have them here. You have these here. This is why I'm telling you this. You put on the cuff at the top of the arm, top of the leg. It changes the way blood flows into the limb, right? Oxygen's very important to the human body. Can we agree on that? Agree? Pretty important. When your body's oxygen levels to the tissues drop, your body has an alarm system. Basically says, just like we've been hearing here throughout the presentations, hey, our oxygen level's down, we need help. In response to low oxygen, your body produces more growth hormone, more insulin-like growth factor, more testosterone, more brain-derived neurotropic factor, basically all these beneficial hormones that promote health, healing, and longevity, okay? And you can get the benefits of blood flow restriction with 15 minutes for the upper body, 20 minutes for the lower body, max. 5 minutes is better than no minutes at the end of the day. And again, you can have these here and we can do it completely passively. You could sit on the couch, you're watching TV, you're getting up Sunday morning, right? Nothing to do. Throw on the cuffs, you run a recovery cycle, and I can, again, reach out and we can coach you through all of this. You run a recovery cycle, you're gonna increase all these beneficial hormones. You got knee pain, it's incredibly beneficial for mitigating pain. Knee, ankle, hip. I've had paraplegics who have told me that upper body BFR is the only thing that gets rid of their neck and shoulder pain when they're in the wheelchair. It's the only thing. Guy was on, he's like, I've had opioids, dry needling, cupping, you name it. He's actually a physical therapist. I was out in Denver. He's like, this is the only thing that helps me with my head, neck, and shoulder pain. You do it actively. You're going out for a walk, right? We're talking about exercise. Grab the family, go out for a 10-minute walk, put on the cuffs. It will turn completely. Now instead of just walking, you're increasing muscle strength, mass, and endurance with a simple walk. It's silly. Super easy, incredibly low-hanging fruit, okay? You want to get real crazy? You can, when you resistance train, it's a pump unlike anything you felt before. It's like we were saying, right? Oxygen's important. Blood flow restriction creates a hypoxic environment. It also creates this thing called mechanical stress and metabolic stress. Basically, this cuff slows down blood entering the limb and prevents blood from escaping the limb. As blood is prevented from escaping, it's got to go somewhere. It starts entering the muscle cells and it stretches them. In response to that stretch, right, those muscle cells get stretched, it increases muscle protein synthesis. The cell membranes tell the nucleus we got to get bigger. So now you're increasing your muscle cells, right? It's producing more of them, they're getting larger. You're also building up what's called metabolic stress, which is basically just every time you contract a muscle, you're creating metabolites, right? Because you're moving and that creates these byproducts. The more byproducts you produce, the greater the response to testosterone, growth hormone, and insulin-like growth factor are. So that's why you get stronger exercising. You're exercising more, you create more byproducts, the body responds by increasing your hormones that make your muscles grow. The low oxygen environment, this is super important. Just by wearing these cuffs, you trigger the production of hypoxia-inducible factors and heat shock proteins. Heat shock proteins are what everyone talks about in the sauna right now, okay? They are longevity proteins. Hypoxia-inducible factors are some of the most amazing things in the human body. Basically, once oxygen dips, your body turns these factors on and they are master regulators in the human body. Once they're on, they increase the production of brain-derived neurotropic factor, which again, protects your brain cells. In studies, it supported learning, memory, cognition. VEGF is vascular endothelial growth factor. That stimulates the growth of new blood vessels. So if you got someone who, my feet are always cold, my hands are always cold, I got poor circulation, blood flow restriction will help them, right? It'll help get it a flush, move blood through those tissues. And it's also going to increase growth hormone just by changing the oxygen levels in those tissues. All of these positive things happen. Heat shock proteins, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Huntington's. Neurodegenerative disorders, which are starting to run rampant in our population, the United States, this is protective against them. Heat shock proteins are basically the body's contractors, right? What I mean by that, in biology, structure dictates function, which means the way a protein is built dictates the way it works in the human body. Heat shock proteins are the builders, the contractors. They look at the blueprint, they look at the protein. If that protein, whether it's toxins or maybe nutrient deficiency or we didn't put everything we needed or it's just deformed, the heat shock protein checks that, sees the deformed protein, and it will destroy it or it will dismantle it. And so your body can reuse those parts and turn into something beneficial, right? So they're checking everything. That's hugely important, right? Because they can check over cancer cells. Those proteins start to change shape. They can be those contractors that end up destroying those cells, those inflammatory issues. Heat shock proteins, muscle recovery, growth. I mean, the benefits are incredible just by changing oxygen flowing into the limb. And this is well studied since the 1960s. Brain-derived neurotropic factor, incredibly beneficial to the central nervous system, right? Incredibly beneficial. Helps the brain cells survive, grow, and mature. Vascular endothelial growth factor, we already discussed it, right? But that stimulates angiogenesis, which is the growth of new blood vessels. So not only is BFR going to help your muscles grow larger, but then it's going to allow blood flow and get them the nutrition they need to maintain that growth. We know what testosterone is. BFR boosts testosterone, right? So all of those muscle building effects that testosterone causes. You don't need, now peptides are all the rage, right? Guys are using TRT. They're introducing all these synthetic formulas into their body. We're not sure right now what the long-term effects of those are yet, right? And what happens when you disrupt, a lot of times you get on TRT, your natural testosterone production is going to bottom out, right? It's going to dip at least for a substantial amount of time. BFR is going to allow you to boost testosterone without introducing anything to your body. Nothing. Completely natural. It's your own body, your own mechanisms. Growth hormone. This is what I think is most important about growth hormone. It's not just muscles. Growth hormone is for joint health and bone density. We got older adults using BFR to fight osteoporosis. Sarcopenia, the muscle wasting, right? When you're older and you just you haven't exercised in a while, so that muscle starts decreasing. And you see those very frail older adults. We got older adults using BFR now and they're putting on more muscle, okay? This is important because it's going to help heal those joint structures that are beat up when it is bone on bone, right? It's going to help decrease that pain. And not only that, right? Not only are you going to decrease the pain, but once you start building the muscle, heck, we might even restore some of that joint integrity. It'll never be perfect, but we might move the needle. Insulin-like growth factor, tendon and ligament strength, super important. Those connective tissues. Right? It's not just about the muscle. It's about what the muscles are pulling on and what they connect to. And we got to maintain their health. And that's where BFR comes in, play a huge role. Nitric oxide, right? So BFR, nitric oxide basically takes the blood vessel and widens it out. So now you're pumping blood more efficiently. BFR boosts nitric oxide. So you're going to, not only are you delivering more to different areas, right? You're delivering more blood flow because that blood vessel is widened out, and you're getting it deeper because you stimulate the growth of new blood vessels. The effects of BFR, right? Truly incredible. And you see a lot of up arrows and there's one down arrow. Myostatin is a growth inhibitor. So not only does blood flow restriction, right, a short 5, 10, 15-minute workout with blood flow restriction increase mTOR pathways, right? That's going to increase muscle protein synthesis, as do most of these. It's going to give you all these positive healing effects, longevity, decreasing inflammation overall. Myostatin is an inhibitor. So the one hormone or anabolic molecule that prevents you from growing, BFR is going to stop that from being produced. So it's twofold in muscle growth, right? Because typically what happens when we grow, myostatin will regulate how big we can, kind of slows us down. BFR pushes that into the ground. so we can kind of grow at a faster rate. And that's why we see when it comes to increases in muscle growth and strength and size, they normalize at 12 weeks. But if this is my time, and this is my 12-week mark, traditional strength training, right? If I'm just normally strength training, it's going to be a very gradual increase, and then it will be this steep increase after 12 weeks, right? We're going to see this. With blood flow restriction, it's there. It accelerates it. It is a rapid growth rate, right? Eventually, because at the end of the day, getting under something heavy is good for your body if you're strong enough to support it, right? Your structure. Because when you get under a heavy weight, it's very taxing to the nervous system. It does some interesting things. But BFR, if you're not looking to get under anything heavy, but you want to be strong, support those joint spaces, longevity, health in the future, blood flow restriction, you don't even have to move. You can literally do it sitting on the couch watching TV. Incredibly low-hanging fruit. Multiple studies, people laying in beds, post-op total knee replacement. And they're using BFR to reduce atrophy. I worked with a gentleman, young man, 16 years old, high school athlete, tore his ACL. Mom came to me, what do I do? I was like, let's get the cuffs on him and we'll use passively. So he did no exercise. He did all passive BFR for 6 weeks before his surgery. 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off, 3 cycles every day. About 5 to 7 days a week for 6 weeks. Has the surgery, physical therapist and surgeon both reach out. This kid has minimal atrophy. We've never seen a leg like this before, where he's like, because usually you tear your ACL and your quad just shuts right down, right? And now you got to spend, one of the biggest issues that you don't know with ACL reconstructions is getting the quad to turn back on, right? Trying to get this to fire. His quad activation, phenomenal. Got physical therapist like, I don't know if I've ever seen a kid like this before. This is amazing. Just doing stuff that they're saying in the literature. Most important thing, 4 days post-op, he squatted to 90 degrees after an ACL reconstruction. Unheard of. And a testament to that kid's effort and his consistency and what he did, but then also adding BFR, and it was all passive, sitting around the house, right? Whatever you need to do. The days he wasn't doing it is because he was hunting. And we couldn't have the pump running in the woods because he wasn't seeing no deer.
Is that one the same as, like, you need the app to pump it up?
Yeah, so it's an app-based. You just hit start, it inflates, and it's now an automated recovery that they're releasing the next couple of months. So in January 2026, you just select recovery, which is where you just BFR. I do it just sitting in a chair watching TV, relax or reading a book, let it inflate, deflate, do its thing, and you get all the benefits. Granted, would exercise be better? Yeah, because you're going to increase the stress and the strain a little bit more and your body responds to those things. But anything is better than nothing, and doing it passively in your bed is far better than doing it not at all. And at the end of the day, when those cuffs are on, you're creating a contraction that is similar to the way your muscles move. So you're basically, right, we talked about moving all that lymph with muscular contraction, adding strength to the system. Nothing's better for your foot and ankle than BFR, in my opinion, right? Your calves, it's hard to get your calves to fire and to get them big. BFR is a hack for it. You will get immediate changes in your calf musculature and the way they feel, your gastroc, your soleus, your Achilles, using BFR for the lower leg. The most important place to start, I believe, right? Start where you stand. When it comes to this physical activity, right? I would love to see you use BFR to kind of get yourself rolling, because I think it's huge, low-hanging fruit to improve our health. But you don't doing that, right? Squatting. Get up, do a couple squats. My part of our morning routine with my son, when I get him up for school, I let him pick. He'd do what we want, but we'll do like 3 exercises, right? He's hopping on a foot, each foot. He'll do some heel raises. We'll do some push-ups, but just getting them moving. Prioritize movement. And at the end of the day, if you want your kids to be healthy, I'm sorry, y'all got to put it on yourselves. It's got to come from the right, lead by example. I used to have a head coach who used to say, do as I say, not as I do. And I love that man, but that drives me nuts, right? If we're going to do something, if we're going to say something, we should emulate that, and we should be that model. And if you want your kids, your nieces, your nephews, your family, right, to prioritize health, you have to do the same. Start small. Start where you can be successful. 2-3 minutes here, 1 minute here. It doesn't matter. Just get moving. It doesn't matter what it is. You can't commit an hour to the weight room, don't. Commit 5 minutes to doing some heel raises throughout the day. 1 minute periods, wherever it is, micro movement, right? Getting walking after eating, put that glucose somewhere. Play with the kids. Heel raises, take the stairs. Find those little areas. And it's super, right? You see it in the news back when I was growing up. Park far away in the parking lot. Walk a little bit further. That stuff matters. But now when you walk and you're walking further in the parking lot, drive through your toes, right? Extend, squeeze the butt muscles, try and drive through the toes. So now it's not just a walk, but it's a walk where my foot and ankle, all the way to my glute and low back, everything's getting worked, right? Very important. Not just what we do, but how we do it. Find a morning routine. We call movement snacks. Find ways to move throughout the day. You guys obviously do a lot of it, right? You're up moving, constant calls are happening, but if there's a way to strength train, find some of those ways to heel raise, right? You got to give your body a reason to adapt. Your body is an incredible healing adaptive structure. When you challenge it, it's going to hurt and it'll be uncomfortable, but your body will respond by growing stronger. Consistency is more important than intensity. Does that make sense? We're not looking for one huge effort of 2 hours in the gym. We're looking for multiple smaller efforts throughout the week, right? Consistency over intensity. Again, I appreciate y'all. Thank you for your time. If I can help you, you don't have to, right, obviously you don't have to raise your hand and reach out now. I'm going to put my phone number up on the next slide. If there's anything I do to be helpful, questions, I don't care what it is. If it's anything health, wellness related, let me know. That's what I'm here for. That's what I love to talk about. That's what my passion is. I want to help people live healthier lives, pass this stuff down so we can kind of change course of where we're heading right now as a society. Okay? You guys see it more than anybody. So I know I'm preaching to the choir. You guys are taking the people out of their homes that are incredibly malnutritioned, obese, all of these issues, right? What are your goals? I'll help you reach them. Whatever I can do. There's my phone number. I appreciate y'all. I know we got a later start. That was a little bit longer than the previous two. Hopefully you got some positive information from there. Are there any questions? Any concerns? What can I do better? Feedback.
The vitamin D.
Yeah.
Supplements on that.
So great question. Are you asking what you can get?
No, well, I'm just asking like dosage and, they say to take it with vitamin K.
Yes.
What's the recommended dose? Like in the wintertime, there's no sun.
So from November to March, where we are living right now, we don't synthesize vitamin D from the sun right now. So you're relying all on your stores. Vitamin D, the recommended daily value or allowance was set when vitamin D was just analyzed as enhancing bone loss and preventing bone loss. And now we know all of these different other things it does, interacts with all these different genes, vitamin D receptors. To make a long story short, I look at it kind of like the lens. You're outside for 15 minutes in the summer. Your body will synthesize 15,000 international units IUs of vitamin D in 15 minutes, give or take. An incredible amount. But you're only taking 800 international units when you supplement with vitamin D, right? I don't think that's enough. Bronson is and I'll send you this because I just put it for some of the other guys. I sent them like 80. If you guys want it, just let me know or I'll just send it to everybody. It's a nutrition guide with supplements, like clean supplements, because that's a whole other thing. The supplement industry is super grimy in terms of if it's a proprietary blend, you don't want it because it could be anything could be in there. They could be used in rice flour versus actual supplements. So it's a nutrition guide with supplements, but it's all clean supplements. So one of those is the Bronson vitamin D, and it is 10,000 IUs per pill, and that's what I take. Now, I'm not very good at taking it religiously every day, but I'll do every couple of days. I'll do between 30 to 60,000 IUs, to be honest. I'll pop a whole bunch of those and just roll with it. And when I was doing that, granted, I exercise, so there's always, right, a lot of factors play a role, but very rarely, even with kids in elementary school, and elementary schools, there's just sickness everywhere. We're very rarely getting sick. And I think that's really just movement, water, exercise.
So what's the blood level that it should be at? Because I know you get your blood.
Ooh, vitamin D?
Yeah, what's supposed to be above what they recommend?
Yeah, let me do some research on that. Dive deeper, because then you got vitamin D precursors that should be circulating there, and it all depends on what they're measuring. I'd like that specific test. Because even if it's a precursor circulating throughout the body, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be converted and used readily available right away. So I'll dive in a little bit deeper into that so I can give you a real good answer.
Supplement list is interesting.
I'll get it to you. Naked, so I have no way. I'd like to become a brand ambassador for them because I really like it. But Naked, the company's called Naked. Naked Nutrition or supplements. But like I just bought my wife strawberry protein, and which is fantastic. It contains whey, coconut sugar, and freeze-dried strawberries, and that's it. Right, and you go to Walmart and you're looking at the back of their protein, there's like ACE potassium sulfate, trisodium dioxide, which is like an industrial floor cleaner that we somehow used, we figured out a way to use it in like nutrition supplements. So that Naked's a great brand, and then some of the other stuff. Dr. Berg is another one. He's a big YouTube like chiropractor guy, but he does a lot of D plus K vitamins. But I'll send you that.
So like a multivitamin, or you take all these separate?
Depending on I would do the Naked multivitamin, but I just don't necessarily do a multivitamin. I'm a big believer too, like supplements are to supplement, right? Like I want, they're my patchwork. I'm trying to eat fruits, vegetables, and meat. There's gonna make up the base of my diet, like cheese, eggs, milk. That is old school. Like I'm trying to eat like it's 1800s. Real simple foods. I'm eating ingredients. That makes up the foundation of the diet. And then when I think I'm lacking, or it's hard to meet a protein goal, right? Like if you're trying to get a gram per pound or a half gram per pound, that can be hard some days. So that's where I supplement with my protein powders. And I'll do that like a really good, easy dessert, and I'll share desserts with you because I like to eat sweet things, but I don't like to eat them as a detriment to my health. Sweetening with honey and maple syrup, phenomenal for you. Highly beneficial, and there's a lot of arguments to be made that your body doesn't convert either one of those to fat, and the amount of spike in your blood sugar is much less compared to anything else. So highly recommend those things. But like take Greek yogurt, very high in protein versus just regular yogurt. You get the Greek yogurt, like I went to Aldi yesterday, got that, 16 grams, 3/4 a cup. Put the Greek yogurt into a bowl, add a scoop of chocolate protein powder and a little maple syrup. It tastes like you're eating pudding, but it is right? It's 45 grams of protein, and it doesn't taste bad. And that to me is huge. Like, I eat enough stuff where my family's like, "What are you doing? That tastes like garbage." So the dessert, my wife don't touch my cooking, so I'm working on it though. Just steaks is the only thing I can make for her. But finding those desserts that are sweet but also beneficial, they're boosting your health, is hugely important to me. And I think that is very low-hanging fruit. Because what are most processed, right? You go buy the pies, the cakes, the cookies, the ice cream at the store. It's crazy all the stuff that they have in it. Read the ingredients list. And what started me off, I have a severe nut allergy. So if I eat a nut, right, your boy's going down. You better EpiPen me in a hurry. Or they got that nasal spray now, which I'm hoping to get after. But so I'd start off reading the ingredients list. Then I start reading, be like, what the hell? What is this? Like if you can't pronounce it, and then as a chemistry teacher, I started looking these things up and I'm like, what is this? And that's how I found out like the trisodium dioxide diphosphate, it's an industrial floor cleaner, but it's being put in a ton of our food products. Carrageenan, which is in a ton of our dairy products, our yogurts, it's a stabilizer. It's linked to breast cancer. It's banned in other countries, but we're putting it in a ton of our dairy products, even organic. Right? Read the labels. Because just if it says organic, non-GMO, doesn't mean it's, that's coming from someone where I try and eat that way because I want to reduce the chemical load. But when it comes to processing, no matter what, processing is challenging for the health of the human body. The least processed we can be, the better off we're going to be. Or I tell my son, 80%. 80% we're eating ingredients. The 20% let the chips fall as they may, right? You're going to go out to eat. There's going to be stuff dropped here at the firehouse. Right? We're trying to confine that. Try and squeeze that down so that doesn't become the bulk of our diet. That is just, again, supplementary. I went out for a walk today. I'll give myself this, that, or the other thing. I appreciate you guys. I know you've been sitting there a while.
What about creatine?
Love it.
Like beyond like muscle?
Yeah, I love it for the brain benefits. Yeah. So I made our after dinner shake or smoothie yesterday was, I take frozen, I was telling Tom when we walked in, frozen bananas, freeze them, pull them out, put them in the blender, we add milk, protein powder, and I added creatine to it. So there's a ton, and not only for men, but for women. Actually could be even more beneficial for women in the long run because they produce 20 to 30% less creatine than we do. But creatine, what creatine does, right? So your body, we talked about it earlier, mitochondria, your body's gasoline. The gas for your body is a molecule called ATP. Basically, when you eat, here's my apple. Every apple, right, has glucose. So one glucose molecule becomes, we'll just keep it simple, we'll call it 2 ATP. So we get one here and one here. What? Yeah, fake apple, right, not real. Don't.
We're talking about pears. Pears are fake apples. Fake apples? So then oatmeals want to be cereal.
For Shirley. What about steel cutouts? ATP, so this is creatine. ATP is an amino acid attached to 3 phosphate molecules. Every time you flex, you drop a phosphate. You flex again, right? You hit another rep. Your body strips the phosphate. This is the metabolic byproducts. This is what makes BFR so effective. You lose another phosphate. Creatine is basically, right, that's a bus. This is creatine. Creatine's a bus driver, and what it transports is phosphates. So what creatine does, and why it's so effective, right? It doesn't make you stronger. It gives your body energy to do more with. Creatine then transports and then adds the phosphates back to ATP. Does that make sense? So then overall your body's just at a higher energy level. It can do more with what you got. And the benefits of creatine, the brain benefits are where it's at, right? Improving cognitive function, eliminating that brain fog when you get up, all of those things that we're constantly dealing with. Creatine is hugely beneficial. Naked creatine. So when it comes to creatine as well, monohydrate is what has been studied the most. And it's bad for your kidneys. You're going to carry water weight. Kind of been refuted. You're going to find the vast majority of studies that refute that and that argue against it. I can honestly tell you I was on creatine, and not even a good one, from 14 until 28. Was on creatine consistently, I'd say at least 5 days a week for 9 months out of the year. When I was playing football during the season, I didn't take it. I probably should have, but I didn't. Always exercising, always took it. 5 grams before, 5 grams after. Sometimes now I'll actually do 30 grams. I'll add it to. I just read a recent study, and that's what it was. The brain benefits, getting all the cognitive function stuff, 30 grams of creatine is what they were supplementing with, so that's what I rolled with. Yeah, but naked, we want to eliminate all the extra junk, right? Keep it super simple, and creatine is going to be more effectively absorbed when you pair it with a sugar, right? Put in some juice, put in a protein. It doesn't have to be like a Sour Patch Kid sugar, but just something that your body sees as sugar, as glucose, will get it more readily absorbed. Yeah, if I'm doing good, I'll just do 5 grams a day, every day. When I forget is when I'll bump it up and I'll do 30 grams. But yeah, there used to be whether you do the loading phase, right? It used to be real popular when we were in high school. They'd say take 10, 20, 30 grams a day for the first 5 days, and basically you're filling the gas tank. You want that sucker to be overflowing with creatine by the time you're getting after it. So that way when you do exercise, it's a slight depletion, and then you're always topping off. You're always topping off. You're always topping off. That's the whole goal of that loading phase. Any other questions, concerns, thoughts? Reach out. That's my number, please, if I can be helpful to you guys. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this stuff. Hopefully you found it somewhat entertaining or informative.